Do you want to help strengthen this channel? It's easy. When making your purchases, use the provided links in the description of which we are affiliates. Every small gesture is very valuable to us.
I was in Turkey just 2 weeks ago. You've heard of Konya? Outside in the garden, so many broken pieces, huge faces, half faces, all kinds of things. Old temples all broken and made foundation stone. So we were just walking through, and there in the garden I found about 4.5 feet or more, about 4 feet 9 inches kind of linga, properly created linga, an ellipsoid stone. So, wow. And when we looked at the history and things like that, they said this is almost 4,700 years old. 4,700 years ago, there was a full-fledged temple with almost 5 feet tall lingam which was in worship. And it was consecrated that long ago, still alive. Cracked a little bit, so got disturbed, and I was just demonstrating for the few, 3-4 people who were with me. Every point in the linga is different. Different points in the linga are differently done, beautifully done piece. Whoever worked on it, they knew what they were doing, not rudimentary job, very subtle work. Still alive, 4,700 years, thrown out in the garden, not worshipped, still alive because of little bit of cracks that have happened. Some disturbances happened to the whole thing, but still there. I just demonstrated, I felt this, and then because they had to see, we put the Rudraksh and showed them how at different places, how the linga behaves differently. So, this work has been done in the past plenty. But when when my way or no way attitude came, these things were all razed to the ground in many ways. Otherwise, whole of Europe was full of temples like this, consecrated spaces like this. These eastern temples were never built as places of prayer. Even today in India, nobody ever leads a prayer in a temple. You're not supposed to pray or worship, but you're just supposed to sit there and come. The idea was people will go and sit there and benefit. This is how a temple was created. No priest, no prayer. There is a maintenance person who is now calling himself a priest. Certain families were appointed to maintain the sanctity of the place, to keep it going in a certain way. You are just supposed to go there, sit there for some time and come. In South India, this tradition is still alive. In North, it's been disturbed because the brunt of invasions North India took, South India left. The Deccan Plateau was generally left untouched by the outside invaders. So you were just supposed to sit there. Nobody leads a prayer, nobody teaches you a prayer, nobody says you must do this or that. You just sit there and imbibe this, because these are all consecrated spaces. They created many. All these things were razed to ground. Only few that are left are generally in India and some other Southeast Asian countries. Otherwise, whole of Arabia and Europe were full of consecrated spaces.
Horse gram is one among the lentils. It is the most protein-rich lentil found on the planet. It's very high-powered, so that's why race horses are fed with this gram, which is called as horse gram today. In the market, it's unfortunately called horse gram, it's called kollu in Tamil and Puruli in other languages, ulu in Telugu. So, this is a very good thing. It's good to sprout it. If you sprout it, you digest it much more easily. You can keep it in a bowl in your room, get one white cloth, put it in that, soak it in the water for about 6 to 8 hours. then tie it in a cloth and keep it closed. In about 3 days it'll sprout. If it's sprouted, you can just eat it raw. If it's come out about half an inch out of the seed, you can eat it raw. It takes a lot of chewing and eating. You chew it and eat it. It's very good. Now, this will increase heat in the body. Today sun is up, and suppose today you drink kollu or eat kollu and you feel too much heat, then you must balance it by eating green gram. Sprouted green gram will cool the system. Oh, is this all so complicated? Can't I just eat my meal? I'm only asking you to just eat it. I'm not asking you to perform any ritual. But right now, you are just performing the ritual of eating. You're not eating as a human being should eat. If you just go and watch any of the wild animals, they're just chopping, chomp, 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 they're eating, but they're not eating indiscriminately. Just like that, they're rejecting what they don't want. They're eating what they want. Just observe a spotted deer, you can see it will be grazing. You just see what it eats, what it does not eat. It just knows. Just like that, by the feel of it, it knows what to eat, what not to eat for today. Tomorrow it may be eating a leaf that it does not eat today, but today it knows what to eat for its body and for the atmosphere around it. So you also need to develop that a little bit, because this is the intelligence of the body. So, consuming this horse gram will generate heat in the body. If you find it's causing excessive heat, how do you know excessive heat is? You will notice your eyeballs are hot. Or you want to go and pee, you want to pee, it's full but it won't come out, it hurts. That means there is excess heat. Such a thing happens, you just drink some ash gourd juice or eat some green gram or take some castor oil and apply it on, either inside the navel or the anahata, the vishuddhi, this place and these two spots behind the ears. If you apply instantly, within 5 minutes, the system will cool down, go to the bathroom, everything will happen without effort. So, the body has to be managed. Even now, self-management is happening. But if you consciously manage it, it'll function better. It's as simple as that. If you want to use this system at a higher dimension of performance, then you have to watch it. Somehow live and die, then nothing matters, you eat whatever. What does it matter? Even if you eat garbage, you will live. But eating with care and watching what the body needs will enable the body in many ways. A conscious managing, not becoming a health freak, being, stressed about what do I eat, what do I do this, how do I this, no, that itself is damaging. Just being conscious, how much of what is body's requirement today, that's what you do.
Do you see this body? As we've been going through this again and again to the same point, when it was born, it was so small. Now it became this much. Definitely you didn't need any external stretching help to get it to this size, isn't it? That which is the source of creation, what you refer to as the creator, seem to be functioning from within you, isn't it so? Yes? The creator is functioning, that means the manufacturer of this body and this existence seems to be functioning from within you. If the manufacturer is inside, if you allow him to function, fixing small flaws in the body, you think it'll be a problem? So, Shambhavi Mahamudra is just creating a passage so that your innermost core functions. If you allow it to function, the nature of this, in yoga we refer to your innermost core as the bliss body. People have always talked for ages that if you come in contact with God, you will become blissful, Brahmanand. They've been talking about this. See, it's different ways of presenting it. Your innermost core is referred to as bliss body. Now, all we are trying to do is the physical body, the mental body, the pranic body and the etheric body, we are aligning it in such a way so that the innermost core within you, the bliss body, finds expression. The Shambhavi is not creating ecstasy. The Shambhavi is just aligning these four so that this one, the source of creation, finds expression. If the source of creation within you, the creator, finds expression, fixing your heart, liver or kidney, you think it's a big problem? Manufacturer, when he comes out and begins to function, everything is fixed. You will see miraculously, health will become okay. I can show you thousands and thousands of people who come out of their ailments just like that, like a miracle. Is it a miracle? Anything that you don't understand, you will call it a miracle, isn't it? Suppose you don't know what is electricity, and I tell you, you just watch this, I'm going to press that wall and this hall will be flooded with light. Would you believe me? You won't believe me. You'll say, no, such things are not possible. Now if I press it and suddenly there's light everywhere, now you think either I'm son of God, messenger of God or God himself, depending upon which culture you come from. Isn't it? Anything that you don't understand is a miracle in your understanding. Either there is no miracle in life, everything happens between cause and effect, or everything is a miracle. Isn't this life a miracle? You and me sitting here on this round planet which is going at a tremendous speed, is it not a miracle? We sitting here and talking all this nonsense? Is it not a miracle? So if you look at it, if you have eyes to see, everything is a miracle. Or nothing is a miracle. These are two ways to approach life, these are two forms of yoga. One is to see everything as sacred. Another is to see everything as utter nonsense. But now your problem is, what you like is sacred, what you don't like is nonsense. That's a problem, that's a trap. Everything is sacred, this is a beautiful way to live. Everything is nonsense, that is also a very beautiful way to live. What these people are sacred, these people are nonsense, this will destroy you. It once happened. Shankaran Pillai was at the family dinner, and when everybody settled down for dinner, he stood up at the table and announced, I am going to marry Lucy, who's just across the street. I hope that's not the name. No. Then the father said, what? You going to marry Lucy? She has nothing, she's like a tramp. You going to marry that Lucy? Mother said, what? You going to marry that Lucy? The uncles always pitch in these kind of matters, Uncle said, what? You going to marry that Lucy? Have you seen her hair? It looks fake. The aunt, what? You going to marry Lucy? She's always painted. You going to marry the painted woman? The little boy, the nephew, can't be left out. He said, you going to marry Lucy? She doesn't even know what is cricket. How can you marry her? Shankaran Pillai stood his ground and said, yes, I'm going to marry Lucy. Everybody asked in one voice, why? He said, because she has no family. There are no many opinions to battle with. So, who is the right person? I don't want to take away all the romance from your life. But let me tell you this, there is no right person on this planet. If you get into that kind of unrealistic mindset, I have found the right person, oh, you will be soon disappointed. You must understand, there is no right person. First thing is to see whether I am the right person. Yes, am I the right person? And there are no right people on this planet. If you understand, you have your nonsense, they have their nonsense. We can adjust nonsense. Go on. First and foremost thing is, you bring yourself to your place where your experience of life is just pleasant by yourself. You're wonderful. Now, let us see what gets drawn to this one. If you're really wonderful, it will happen in every way, I'm saying. And this whole thing is an American thing, that there is a soulmate somewhere. God made just one more person just for you. But these days, every 2 years, he keeps making one more person just for you. Obviously, God is making too many mistakes with you. See, body needs a mate, understandable. Maybe psychologically also you need a mate, understandable. Emotionally you need a mate. The soul cannot need a mate, so soul doesn't need a mate. Nor was some person made perfectly for you, okay? If you invest a deep sense of involvement, something wonderful may happen. It's because of your involvement, not because the other person is fantastic. No. Even if you choose a fool, actually it's easy that way. If they're not stupid, why would they come to you first of all? No, I'm just being nasty. So, even if you choose a fool, it doesn't matter. If you involve yourself, it can turn out very beautiful. You chose the smartest person in the universe, it could be a disaster. So, do not think in terms of, whatever this made for each other nonsense. No. You choose the opposite, actually. But after some time, after a little bit of time, you slowly start expecting they're just like you. This is a serious mistake. Because if one more person becomes just like you won't be able to bear with them for 2 days. Nobody is like you, and that's good. Don't look for sameness, not necessary. Because of the difference you tango, not otherwise.
Our mothers have set amazing benchmark.
The moment you say mothers,
Yeah.
they're giving a sound ambience of babies crying.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
That's the halo effect, I think. Yeah. So they've set up quite a big benchmark of being an ideal wife. However, I, or girls of my generation, feel that we cannot be as good as wife our mothers have been. So should I feel that I am falling short in my personal life, or should I feel that I'm not giving enough justice to my marriage once I'm married? How should I feel about this?
Our center in the United States is in Tennessee. Tennessee is a little one kind of state. Mary Makowski, that's not Romanian, right? No. Mary Makowski got married. And after their honeymoon, they came home and she threatened him that she's going to make a dinner all by herself. I'm sorry, she said she'll make dinner for the new husband. And husband came home from work and she served the dinner and he put it in his mouth and slowly he was chewing on it and went into profound thought. Then she was very excited about this dinner and she said, there are only 2 things my mother taught me how to cook, the meatloaf and the apple pie. Then he looked at her and said, darling, which one is this? So, your mother, your grandmother, how they made good wives? Largely it was believed the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Today your husband will call Uber Eats and whatever quick picks and this and that and Swiggies and whatever, all right? So, you can't make a good wife based on how your grandmother became a good wife. You can't become a good wife based on how your mother became a good wife. Situations have changed, expectations have changed. It's not in the stomach anymore. For some, it's gone up into the head, for some, it's gone further south. Yes? So, you don't do that. Essentially, what a husband and wife means is, because you're not geared, most people are not geared. Very few people in this world are geared to make this journey of life all by themselves. They're organized enough within themselves, totally. They never feel anything missing in their life because they've made themselves like that. But most people need somebody else to lean on. Either emotionally, psychologically, there are needs in a human being, physical needs, psychological needs, emotional needs, maybe social needs, economic needs, variety of needs. To fulfill these needs, you want to find one person that you can depend on. Because it's very difficult even to find one person with whom you can share everything that you have, your body, mind, emotion and works. So this is the idea. Formalizing it is so that every time you get some little friction, you don't fall apart, so little tying up so that things don't fall apart very easily, all right? Nothing else. The biggest mistake humanity made was, they started saying marriages are made in heaven, that's why it's such a mess. No, it's done here. If you see, marriages are made between us and we took responsibility for who we are, we could have made it work, but the damn thing is made in heaven. Not suitable here, it's because it's alien stuff. Everything is a mess because you think it's made elsewhere by somebody else. If you understand it's made by you for your well-being, to fulfill your needs and your purposes so that you can go through this journey of life with least amount of trouble and friction, then you would handle it more responsibly, isn't it? And according to contemporary needs, not how your grandmother did her marriage. You can't do it that way because expectations and situations have completely altered themselves. So, if you hold somebody who is your friend and who is your need, you must understand. You are in this relationship because you need. Maybe the other person also needs, but that's from their side. As far as you are concerned, you made this relationship because you need it badly, isn't it? If you understand and you're always grateful for this, that somebody is fulfilling all your need, you would handle it well. You wouldn't make a misery out of it. But now you think somebody else needs you, then you'll make a mess out of it. You understand, you need it. Well, the other person also needs to understand he needs it. Now there is a cohesion. If you think, oh, you need me, so I'm going to exploit you, no. This is not about you squeezing happiness out of somebody or they squeezing happiness out of you. If two happy people meet, then there can be something wonderful happening between them. But you are a misery and you think somebody else should be the source of your happiness, well, it'll multiply.
In this materialistic age, the real feeling of love is disappearing from our life. Most of the love we receive from others and express to others is superficial. How can we reinforce the real feeling of love in our own life and in others?
Forget about others. If you learn to be loving by your own nature, not because of somebody else or something else. I know the question is coming from Facebook, there's an enormous possibility. You can even love those people who don't even exist. So I'm saying it's a tremendous possibility. So, if you just become love, not love somebody, then you will know the nature of love. If you love somebody, it's a fickle happening, because no human being will happen 100% the way you want them. Every human being on this planet is going to disappoint you, believe me. Not because they'll do something wrong, because nobody can fulfill the unrealistic expectation you have of them. It's simply not possible. Have you been able to fulfill anybody's expectation, I'm asking you, entirely? Partially, but never entirely, isn't it? Believe me, whoever comes, I want you to know, the ideal people whom you worship, when Krishna was there, his wives complained, all right? Love is not a relationship. A relationship is a different thing. Love is a certain sweetness of your emotion. Whether you look at a tree, or a dog, or a man, or a woman, or a child, or just at the sky, why can't you look at it lovingly? Because it's not about loving the sky, it's about the sweetness of your emotion. If your emotions are sweet, whatever you look at it in a certain way. Right now you have nasty emotions, whatever you look at it in a different way. So you have always associated love with somebody. No, this is not about somebody. Love is not something that you do, it is something that you can become. If you're willing, you can become love, you can make your emotion into a very sweet space. If you make your body very pleasant, it becomes pleasure. If you sit here, it can be great pleasure just sitting here and breathing. If your mind becomes pleasant, we say this is joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we say this is love. If your very life energies become pleasant, we say this is blissfulness, this is ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call that success. Now you're calling your success with somebody as love, that's a mistake. You have a success story with somebody, you're calling that love. No, that is actually success, because that needs lots of management. But for you to be loving, there is no management. If you just make your emotions sweet, your emotions are sweet and it's beautiful, be like this. It's not about anybody. If somebody comes, we can share it. If nobody comes, you can sit here with your eyes closed and still be loving. What's the problem? It is not about somebody, it's not an action. It is not something that you do, it is something that you can become.
Turn around once. Just turn around. Just turn around, turn around. See, all of you see what's written on his t-shirt? A. Yeah, that's where you start, A. Don't start with Z, A. You must start with A. A means it's a beginning, isn't it? So, where should you start? Does it happen in stages? Where should you start? I think we've been repeatedly saying, you can only start from where you are. You cannot start somewhere else. Don't try to start anywhere. There's nothing to start. It's already long ago it's been started. You are trying to just hasten it, that's all. You can't start it, it's already started. Your longing to grow has started, isn't it? Maybe you're thinking of more money, but that's only your misunderstanding. But essentially, you want to be something more. That's a spiritual process. Misguided, but a spiritual process. You want to become powerful, you want to become rich, you want to become knowledgeable, you want to be loved, you want to have pleasure, all these are spiritual processes going in wrong directions, that's all. Unconscious conducting of… you're unconsciously conducting a spiritual process. If you conduct anything unconsciously, you may flounder every step, maybe off the mark, isn't it? If you walk… now if I tell you, drive home with your eyes closed, before you get out of the parking lot, you'll be in quite a bit of mess, isn't it? So now, don't try to start anywhere. just become more and more conscious. As you become more conscious, it will naturally find its way. To be conscious, to be aware, what it means. If you try to be aware, you cannot be aware. People are always mistaking mental alertness for awareness. Mental alertness will enhance your ability to survive better. You can survive better with mental alertness. But that is not awareness. Awareness means… Right now, are you here right now? Yes. Do you know that you're here? Yes. That's awareness. You're aware, that's why you know that you're here. Otherwise you would not know. Suppose you do not know that you're here, isn't it? If somebody… you know. So someone is dead, poke, no awareness. Someone is asleep, poke, immediately there. Now you don't have to be poked, still you are there. So what I'm saying is, your awareness anyway is coming in different stages. Have you noticed at different times of the day you're in different levels of awareness? So it can be heightened. What is needed for survival naturally happens. Even when it comes to survival mode, not every individual is alert to the same extent. Now you're driving on the street, not everybody is alert to the same extent, it's a survival process, driving. But not everybody is alert to the same extent. So even in the survival mode, not everybody is alert to the same extent, and that can be heightened. If you heighten this awareness continuously, a point will come where it's no more about survival. Something that is not needed for your survival will also come into your awareness. When that comes into your awareness, that which is not needed for your survival is bound to be a dimension beyond the physical. So when that comes into your living experience of life, you are on. Very simple. Those 7 days, what we were doing with you is slowly wind you up, wind you up, wind you up in such a way that you become more and more aware. Suddenly after 5-6 days, you were like… After that, if you kept up your practice, gradually it'll move up every day. Otherwise, slowly you became dim once again. Have you noticed this? You steadily keep up your practice, how your awareness is, you give it up and slowly, voltage is going down. If voltage goes down, the light becomes dim. Light becomes dim, you see very few things. The voltage is really high, light becomes really bright and you see everything. This is awareness. So you don't work on your awareness or your consciousness or your spiritual growth, you just work upon your voltage. You keep your energies up as much as possible, and when energies are up, you tend to get entangled with something. You make sure you don't get entangled with anything. See, an adolescent is far more energetic than other people, but he's always getting into trouble because he has the energy, but he doesn't have the stability. So to have the energy and to maintain the stability, if you do these two things if you do, rest will happen by itself, nothing to do. Simply sit and enjoy.
Sadhguru, our mothers have set amazing benchmark.
The moment you say mothers,
Yeah.
they're giving a sound ambience of babies crying.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
That's the halo effect, I think. Yeah, so they've set quite a big benchmark of being an ideal wife. However, I, or girls of my generation, feel that we cannot be as good as wife as my mother has been, or our mothers have been. So should I feel that I am falling short of in my personal life, or should I feel that I'm not giving enough justice to my marriage once I'm married? How should I feel about this?
our center in the United States is in Tennessee. Tennessee is a little one kind of state, okay. Mary Makowski, that's not Romanian, right? Okay. Mary Makowski got married. And after their honeymoon, they came home and she threatened him that she's going to make a dinner all by herself. I'm sorry, she said she'll make dinner for the new husband. And husband came home from work and she served the dinner and he put it in his mouth and slowly he was chewing on it and went into profound thought. Then she was very excited about this dinner and she said, there are only two things my mother taught me how to cook, the meatloaf and the apple pie. Then he looked at her and said, darling, which one is this? So, your mother, your grandmother, how they made good wives? Largely it was believed the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Today your husband will call Uber Eats and whatever quick picks and this and that and Swiggies and whatever, all right? So, you can't make a good wife based on how your grandmother became a good wife. You can't become a good wife based on how your mother became a good wife. Situations have changed, expectations have changed. It's not in the stomach anymore. For some it's gone up into the head, for some it's gone further south. Yes? So, you don't do that. Essentially, what a husband and wife means is, because you're not geared, most people are not geared, very few people in this world are geared to make this journey of life all by themselves. They're organized enough within themselves totally. They never feel anything missing in their life because they've made themselves like that. But most people need somebody else to lean on. Either emotionally, psychologically, there are needs in a human being, physical needs, psychological needs, emotional needs, maybe social needs, economic needs, variety of needs. To fulfill these needs, you want to find one person that you can depend on. Because it's very difficult even to find one person with whom you can share everything that you have, your body, mind, emotion and works. So this is the idea. Formalizing it is so that every time you get some little friction, you don't fall apart, so little tying up so that things don't fall apart very easily, all right? Nothing else. The biggest mistake humanity made was, they started saying marriages are made in heaven, that's why it's such a mess. What's done here? If you see, marriages are made between us and we took responsibility for who we are, we could have made it work, but the damn thing is made in heaven. Not suitable here, it's because it's alien stuff. Everything is a mess because you think it's made elsewhere by somebody else. If you understand it's made by you for your well-being, to fulfill your needs and your purposes so that you can go through this journey of life with least amount of trouble and friction, then you would handle it more responsibly, isn't it? And according to contemporary needs, not how your grandmother did her marriage. You can't do it that way because expectations and situations have completely altered themselves. So, if you hold somebody who is your friend and who is your need, you must understand. You're in this relationship because you need. Maybe the other person also needs, but that's from their side. As far as you are concerned, you made this relationship because you need it badly, isn't it? If you understand and you're always grateful for this, that somebody is fulfilling all your need, you would handle it well. You wouldn't make a misery out of it. But now you think somebody else needs you, then you will make a mess out of it. You understand you need it, well, the other person also needs to understand he needs it. Now there is a cohesion. If you think, oh, you need me, so I'm going to exploit you, no. This is not about you squeezing happiness out of somebody or they squeezing happiness out of you. If two happy people meet, then there can be something wonderful happening between them. But you are a misery and you think somebody else should be the source of your happiness, well, it'll multiply.
So, Sadhguru, you are so reverent and you are so cherished. Do you ever get a superiority complex?
Right now, yes.
See, the question is not about superiority complex, inferiority complex, poverty complex or wealthy complex. That you have a complex is a serious problem, isn't it? Whatever kind it is. What a complex means is, you have assumed something about yourself and you have concretized that assumption. In such a way, you make a bloody fool of yourself wherever you go. Do I look like that? Hello? Do I look like I'm making a bloody fool of myself with you? No. No. So, no complex of any kind.
But then our confidence fluctuates every day. So what do you have to say about that?
Because I don't have any confidence about anything. I just have clarity. People think I have knowledge. No, my head is empty. That's why to make it look little substantial, I have a turban. It's totally empty always. But I have clarity. Clarity means what? You see things the way they are. Knowledge means what? You have fixed information about everything. If things have changed, you will not see it the way it is. That's as good as being blind. See, people think owls are blind. Not true. Their vision is far more sensitive than yours. But because of sunlight, they're blinded because it's too much. When light goes down, he sees very clearly. Not because he's blind, because his eyes are super sensitive. So, it's important that you bring clarity to your life, not knowledge, because knowledge is conclusions that you gather. Knowledge is okay when you're trying to do something physical, material in the world, but not with life. Is it true what you thought was absolute at the age of 12, today is not true? Yes or no? Are you sure that whatever you think is this is it right now, will be this is it in another 3 years' time?
Of course not.
You know that, so you know you're wrong. Yes or no?
Yes.
So you know anyway you're wrong, so why assert the wrong things? Well, right now we are wrong, at least let's manage with little more conscious. If you know you're wrong, you will walk carefully, isn't it? Hello? But you think you're absolutely correct, then you will do stupid things and you blunder around the world. If you know you're not seeing properly, will you walk carefully or no? If I ask you to walk through a dark room, suppose we turn off all the lights and close it down, everything, pitch dark, if I ask you to walk, suddenly will you become super alert and conscious as to how you walk? But when the lights are on, you're just going unconsciously, bumping into everybody. So if you learn to walk every moment like there are no lights and you're looking at everything absolutely carefully, then what you see clearly, you go through it, what you don't see clearly, you hesitate, some places you take a little bit of chance. But if you are just confident, you will blunder through life, we don't know where you will get in and what you will get trapped into. Most people are trapped into their professions, their family situations, their social situations in such a way, they all became like this. Yes, already I'm seeing, not just older people,
Youth have become like this. What will happen to me at the end of my life? What will happen to me at the end of my life? I'm already revealed the secret, you will die. But Sadhguru, if this happens, what to do? If that happens, what to do? All those things will happen. It's not that everything will happen in your life the way you like it, things will happen in the way you don't like it. It once happened, Shankaran Pillai got fired from his job simply because he asked a question, smoking or not smoke, non-smoke. How can you get fired for asking such a simple question? Smoking or non-smoking, he asked, and he got fired. Because what he was supposed to ask was cremation or burial. So, many times what you do, thinking I'm right, may be irrelevant to the situation in which you exist. So the most important aspect of your life is you're relevant, not right. You're just relevant. To the existing situation, you're relevant. I am right, I am right, I am right. This is confidence. You being right, nobody cares. All the idiots who think they're right, nobody wants to listen to them, nobody wants to be around them, isn't it? People who always think, I'm right, you want to be around them? No, the important thing is you're relevant to the situation in which you exist. If you have to bring relevance into your life, you must extinguish your confidence and bring clarity. To develop clarity, there are many systems. See, to develop your muscle, there are systems, isn't it? Similarly, to develop clarity, there are many systems. Unfortunately, our education system is dulling clarity in so many ways. Some of the research studies in the university shows that if a child goes to kindergarten and goes through 20 years of education, I'm sorry, I'm saying this in an educational institution, 20 years of education and comes out, let's say, with a PhD, they are saying 70% of their intelligence is irrevocably destroyed. So you have a knowledgeable idiot. What do you do with this? Well, you can impress people by throwing information, but this whole game of impressing people, throwing this information and that information around is all going to go because that Google lady is better than any of these idiots. Hello? It's really amazing. I am just traveling to wherever, let's say I'm flying to United States or Africa or somewhere, I just ask, what is the morning temperature in Entebbe? I'm landing there. Without batting an eyelid, in 2 seconds, she tells me it's 14 degrees centigrade and by afternoon it's 18 degrees centigrade, by evening it's again 12 degrees centigrade. Who could ever see this? Hello? She may not be perfectly right, but she's almost there. So, people who are carrying a basket of information on their head and feeling superior, I want you to understand this in this country and everywhere else in the world. In not the previous but the previous generation, somebody who could read a book was seen godlike because everybody else was illiterate. And people thrived simply because they can read the Gita or the Bible or something else. They thrived simply because they can read. But once everybody can read, we are ignoring those people completely. Yes or no? Hello? So, people who are carrying information and feeling superior, they will all be made into nothing in the next 15 to 20 years' time. Once artificial intelligence becomes all over the place, information will mean nothing because it'll be available everywhere. By then, you must be competent to do something beyond information. This is why I'm with you. It's fantastic to be here at the foothills of these mountains. Many decades of my life, first half of my life went looking for them. Because I had to unload my load. Now it's now I'm able to be hardly here. On one level, in one way, spiritual process means to become like a mountain, stable, still. Because it's only when somebody has a very stable base, many things can be done. Exuberance of life is possible only if there is absolute stability. Otherwise, exuberance will lead to madness. Yes. That's why a lot of people who are a little creative, little active, little exuberant, always end up being freaky and nearly insane. Because without stability, you cannot have a dance going. This is why Shiva means stillness, Shiva means dance at the same time. Either you see him sitting absolutely still, or you see him in an explosion of dance, because an explosion is possible only when there is a stable base. An explosion which is not destructive is possible only when there is stability. And stability, people try to become stable by controlling and trimming their lives. This is the way your grandmother would tell you how to be stable. Control yourself, then you will be stable. Yes, if you're dead, you will be stable. Very. I promise you that. So normally, people who talk about stability are all constipated existence. You know what's constipation? That means it happens little by little. Their joy, their love, their ecstasy happens little by little, here and there. That's constipation. So, stability is not because you have trimmed your life down or pruned it down to minimal and you're stable. That's of no consequence. Stability because you see everything utterly clearly. That is why when we say Adi Yogi, we're talking about stability, at the same time an exuberant dance. This is possible only because he has more than two eyes, not necessarily three. More than two. That means he sees much more than most people ever see. Because he sees much, much more, able to be stable. If you see only one part of it, you cannot be stable. So the entire effort is to see better. Darshan seeing, you know. The entire culture has always been talking about it. You go to temple not for sending petitions, but for darshan, to see better. Fundamentally, why people are not able to see what is there with life is simply because identifications with so many things. Starting with the body, the identifications have gone into so many things. The moment you identify with something, your entire mind understands that it needs to be protected and just works for that. So how do I break my national identity, my religious identity, my racial identity? You don't have to go like this. If you break your identification with your own body, it's gone. Everything is gone because everything is rooted in that. Everything is just an amplification of your identification with the limited boundaries of your own body. The moment you get identified with this, rest of the identification is only multiplication. And it multiplies pretty rapidly. The more successful you are with whatever you're doing, you will multiply much faster. And you will be able to see less and less as your identities grow, the drama, the psychological drama raises in crescendo, won't allow you to see anything, your own thoughts and emotions will drown you. Unfortunately, the world has been constantly pushing people to believe that what's happening in your mind is very important. I've been trying to convince the world what's happening in your mind is just trash. No, Sadhguru, I'm thinking about God, that is also trash. Maybe a bit holy trash, but still trash. Because in your mind, God cannot come, devil cannot come, angels cannot come, only thoughts come. It's a fool who identifies one thought as sacred, another thought as something else. Thought means something that's not real right now. Thought means old garbage is festering in your mind. You need to think to survive about this and that. But you don't need to think to explore something new. You don't need to think to become enlightened. Because what will you think? You will only think the past data which is in your head, in many different ways maybe. How many varieties of expressions your rubbish finds is of no value to life. Maybe socially there is some value. In some places when I go internationally, people are saying, he's a thought leader. I say, oh. No thought in my head. So seeing clearly, seeing everything, that your vision is not obstructed by yourself. If this one thing happens, stability will happen. Exuberance, you don't have to worry because that's the nature of life itself. Everything is exuberant. Stability it takes to allow exuberance to happen. Otherwise, you keep curtailing your exuberance because it hurts when it's out of balance. If you're out of balance and you move at a certain speed, you're going to hurt yourself. Whether you're riding a bicycle or you're riding the cosmos, if you're out of balance and you attain speed, you're going to hurt yourself very badly. So balance is very important, and balance that comes out of curtailment is not balance, that's,
package death. Yes, you package death in a certain way and it looks very decent and dignified because dead are always very dignified. Have you seen this? They never did anything indecent, did they? So essentially, everything is rooted in the clarity of vision. And that'll not come unless there's some distance between what is me and what is my body. If this distance is not there, then multiplication of identities will just… it's an inevitable consequence. Vision. If you pay attention to these mountains, you should go crazy every day. Though I carried it for my entire lifetime, still I go crazy looking at it. Either you're not seeing it, or you're looking at it and not seeing it. Once Shankaran Pillai came to Isha Yoga Center and said he wants to stay in a room which has the spectacular view. So after thinking, the reception put him in the Chitra block. Next day morning, he woke up and he complained, "I asked for a room with a view. Why did you put me here?" Just tried to explain, this is the room with the best view. He said, "Where is the damn view? The mountain is in the way." Mountain never gets in the way, it's just you. To look beyond yourself, that's all there is. I would like to say that for thousands of years, for the longest period compared to anything on this planet, this wisdom, this dimension of knowing has lived on without any kind of true organization or a certain kind of leadership or any other kind of organized support. Out of sheer efficacy of what it is, it's just lived on. A time has come in the world where even truth has to be protected. When we talk about East, we are not talking about a particular geography. This must be clearly understood. We are not talking about East and West as geographical features in the world. Any number of great minds in America have said things of great reverence and admiration for the so-called Eastern wisdom. Thoreau, one of the greatest minds America produced, went out to say, "Every morning I bathe my intellect in this stupendous and cosmogonal knowledge from the East. In comparison, all our modern world and literature is puny and tribal." I think Mark Twain went out to… probably gave out the best compliment to the East. When he visited India for a little over 3 months, he said, anything that can ever be done, either by man or God, has been done in this land. Any number of others, Oppenheimer, Walden, Emerson, Any number of people have said many things. Why? Why is it important? Why is it important to preserve and nurture this dimension of life? The fundamental reason why it seems to be so significantly different is because it is not a product of human intellect. It is not deductions that we made out of our intellect. This dimension comes from a profound inner experience where there is no right and wrong, there is no up and down, just seeing things the way they are. And when we say dharma, we are not talking about a religion as modern translators went about interpreting dharma as Hindu dharma or whatever, another religion. Because they came from a mindset that everybody has to belong to some segment of humanity. They come from a mindset where humanity has to be divided one way or the other, because they come from the surface intelligence of human nature, which we call as intellect. Unfortunately, the modern societies, modern education systems have entirely dedicated themselves to the human intellect, completely ignoring other dimensions of intelligence which definitely exist within us. When you go by the intellect, the nature of the intellect is always to dissect and divide, because intellect is essentially discriminatory in nature. An intellect functions always with a certain identity. If you have no identity, you cannot use your intellect. So with individual identities, either of race, religion, nationality, caste, creed, gender, when you apply your intellect, it'll split the world into many pieces. So the significance of what we are referring to as the spirit of Eastern wisdom is, it does not come from human intellect. It comes from a deeper dimension of intelligence within us. When I say a deeper dimension of intelligence, a simplistic way of looking at it would be, whatever you had for lunch today, if you had a piece of bread, over the afternoon, this bread is being transformed into a human being. You definitely cannot do that with your intellect. There's an intelligence here which is capable of making a banana into a human being. You definitely cannot do that with your intellect. A dimension of intelligence which is beyond thought process. Thought, or the product of intellect, is essentially always functioning from a limited amount of data that we have gathered. Now, what we call as Eastern wisdom is not coming from a limited amount of data that we have gathered either from the books or our life experience, but simply by enhancing our ability to perceive life in ways that the five sense organs cannot function. Why I'm talking about the five sense organs is all the data that you have ever gathered, which rests in so many aspects within you, which is the food for the intellect, comes from the five sense organs. In the very nature of things, sense organs cannot perceive the entirety of anything. If you can see this part of my hand, you cannot see this part of my hand. This is the nature of sense perception. Even if you take a grain of sand, if you see one part of it, you cannot see the other face of it. Sense organs can only perceive in comparison. If there is no comparison, your senses are useless. Because there is darkness, you know what is light. Otherwise, you just would not know what is light. If light was on all the time and there was no darkness, you would not know what is light. Because there is silence, you know what is sound. If there was no silence, you would not have the idea of what is sound. So always in comparison, it is like, let's say you're 6 feet tall. Now, you walk like a tall man, you think like a tall man, you feel like a tall man, you are a tall man. You went to another society where everybody is 8 feet tall. Suddenly you walk like a short man, think like a short man, feel like a short man, and you are a short man. So what you perceive in comparison is a distortion of reality. It is not reality as it is. So whatever we perceive in comparison is useful for our survival process. But if we want to know the nature of this existence, sense organs are not sufficient instruments. What is light for you is darkness for many other creatures. You ever got into an argument with an owl? If you did, which is light, which is darkness, where would it go? It would be endless argument. Who is right, you or the owl? If you're saying both, either you belong to the diplomatic corps or you have a successful marriage. You have learned to say both for everything. You're right. Well, that is the basis of all the problems on the planet. I'm right and you're wrong. The fact of the matter is, you're perceiving it as it is necessary for your survival. The owl is perceiving it as it is necessary for his survival. If survival is all you're seeking, your 5 sense organs and intellect are sufficient instruments. But if you want to know the nature of the existence, if you want to know the fundamental laws or dharma which governs life, the way it happens within us and around us, then you need an inner perception or another dimension of intelligence within you. Otherwise, you will only cut the world into pieces. In the name of religions, we have cut the world humanity into many pieces because intellectually we have arrived at our own conclusions or deductions, which invariably is bound to divide because intellect is essentially a knife which cuts. It can only dissect. By dissection, you can know certain things. But if you really want to know someone that you love, you don't dissect them, you embrace. By dissection, you may know the kidney, liver, heart stuff, but you will not know that being in any sense. You will lose it completely. So dissection is the way of the intellect because it is a sharp instrument. It has to cut open everything that's given to it. But the East found another way. Out of profoundness of experience, you can know life. By turning inward, you can know life. When I say turning inward, you must understand that essentially the 5 sense organs are always outward. You can see what's around you, but you cannot roll your eyeballs inward and scan yourself. You can hear this, but so much activity in this body, you cannot hear this. If an ant crawls upon this hand, you can feel it. So much blood flowing, you cannot feel it. Because in the very nature of things, sense organs are outward bound. The moment you dedicate yourself to your intellect, you also get enslaved to the limitations of your 5 senses. It is in this context The wisdom of the East is of tremendous significance to the world because it has transcended this slavery to sense perception and learned to perceive life in a completely different way. What is this completely different way? In English language, if you say mind, it is just one word, it is supposed to say everything. In the yogic culture, there are 16 parts to the mind, 16 dimensions of human mind. Now if I go into 16, it would take too much time, so let me compress it into 4. The 4 aspects of the mind are called buddhi, ahankara, manas and chitta. Buddhi means the intellect. Today, modern world is largely run by the intellect. So with this, we can do many things on the outside. We can go on enhancing the comforts and conveniences of life. We've done very well in terms of comforts and conveniences. Never before, never ever before, another generation of humanity ever knew the kind of comforts and conveniences that we have today, but at the same time, we are whining like never before. Because as the comforts and convenience increase on the outside, as there is less to complain about what is happening around you, the emptiness of within echoes within you in a horrible way. When you're fighting for survival, when every day you are struggling to fix small things on the outside, you will not realize this. When outside is well settled, that is when you'll see how hollow life has become. The biggest question in the world, you will see in the next few decades is, what the hell are we doing here anyway? Because everything that needs to be fixed on the outside is done, now what? 7.2 billion people on the planet. But right now, gradually it's looming large. Loneliness is one of the biggest problems. Dogs are being tortured to fulfill human loneliness. Because as you dedicate yourself more and more to your intellect, you will naturally become more and more lonely because it keeps on dissecting and cutting life into various pieces for examination, and then you will see you yourself will be split up into many parts after some time, if you go by the intellect, 100%. The next dimension of the mind is referred to as ahankara. Normally people think it means ego. No, it means identity. You're identified with something. The moment you're identified with something, your intellect will work only to protect that identity, no matter what, whichever way you think. Your ideas of which nation you belong to, which race you belong to, which culture you belong to, which religion you belong to, which gender you belong to, the moment you get identified, your intellect will work only to protect that identity. So, it is a certain kind of prejudice. Well, you may say, I'm not prejudiced, I'm very broad-minded. All right, it's a broad prejudice. Because people are willing to live and die for what they're identified with. Because the nature of the intellect is, if you take away the identity, it will not know what to do. It needs a strong identity, a strong sense of who I am. If you ask, who am I? Your intellect will not function. You must know who you are. A strong sense of belief that this is what I am, that is when your intellect will function in a certain way. This is like… intellect is like a sharp knife. Ahankara or the identity is the hand that holds it. All the suffering on the planet. When was the last time that somebody stabbed you? Even though you're living in LA, I'm asking. When was the last time it happened? Never happened. Maybe when you were in school, somebody poked you with a pin at the most, or even that did not happen, they ignored you. Or what I'm saying is, how much suffering for a human being is actually coming from outside? Almost nothing. Rest is all self-help. Because this is a sharp knife given to you, unsteady hand, every day it's cutting itself. You know, we were we were trekking in Nepal and Tibet region, and I was in a tent. Someone was cutting an apple. And someone else, another person says, "This is a very sharp knife, be careful." It irritates me because such an obvious thing. You call it a knife only because it's sharp. If the damn thing is not sharp, why will I call it a knife? And if it's a child, yes. A full-grown man, you don't tell him it's a sharp knife. I ignored it and I was working on something. Another 2 minutes, again it is said, "It's a very sharp knife, be careful." I said, "Come on, leave him alone." He's a grown man, leave him alone. He's not handling some super instrument, a knife. He should know how to handle a knife. "No, no, Sadhguru, it's a very sharp knife." All right, I get back to my work. 2 minutes later, he cuts his hand. Okay. Now, the problem is just this. You've been given a sharp knife, unsteady hand, every day cutting yourself. You may call it stress, you may call it anxiety, you may call it fear, you may call it misery, you call it what you want. All that's happening is, your intellect is working against you. That's all it is. Unless somebody is stabbing you from outside, that's a different issue. We need to deal with that differently. Rest is all your own intelligence turning against you. You may call it 1,000 no, my mother-in-law, my boss, my neighbor, they're not stabbing you, they're only saying what they want to say. It is you who's poking yourself because an unsteady hand, that's all. But this intellect cannot function without a memory bank. So what is called as manas is a silo of memory. There are 8 dimensions of memory. Let's not go into the detail, but you know this much. There is a conscious memory. Today they're recognizing a subconscious memory. You know there is genetic memory. You may not remember how your great-great-great-grandfather looked like, but his nose is sitting on your face. 1,000,000 years ago, how your forefathers were, even today, your body remembers. You may not remember here, but your body remembers every aspect of it. Even the color of the skin it is remembering. Not forgotten. So there is genetic memory, there is evolutionary memory. Like this, there's a profound dimension of memory in the body. There are 1,000,000,000,000 times more memory in your body than in your mind. So this is why this is called as manomaya kosha. This is an entire manas, not in one place. Intellect may be up here, but the manas spreads right through the system. Every cell in the body has a memory of its own, has an intelligence of its own. Now the 4th dimension of intelligence is called chitta. This is a dimension of intelligence which is unsullied by memory. If you touch this dimension, then the memory has no influence on you. Your genetic memory, your evolutionary memory, your conscious memories, unconscious memory, subconscious memory, whatever kinds of memories you have, it has no influence on you. Or in other words, past cannot recycle itself through you. See, right now, you take on this form because of a certain memory, it's a certain software. If you eat, let's say you're a man and you eat a piece of bread, this piece of bread turns into a man. You're a woman and you eat a piece of bread, the same piece of bread turns into a woman. You give it to your dog, it turns into your dog. Very intelligent bread. It is just the memory that you carry. Here there is a memory which transforms everything the way it is. So, this dimension of intelligence, which is called as chitta, which is untouched by any kind of memory, just pure intelligence, is of significance because it's beyond. It is beyond your species, it is beyond your form, it's beyond your gender, it's beyond your culture, it's beyond every kind of influence, which is essentially memory within you. Maybe unconscious, but it is memory playing out in so many ways. As long as memory is playing out, what it means is, you're… in India we say you're in a state of samsara. Samsara means a lot of people today understand as family. Samsara doesn't mean family, samsara means a cyclical life. You're in cycles of life. If you're in cycles or if you're going in circles, what does it mean? That means you're not getting anywhere. That's what it means. A cycle is nice, it gives you good exercise. This is like running on a treadmill. If you're seeking exercise, it's good. But if you want to go somewhere, it's no good. If you put your treadmill out here and keep running on it, morning becomes evening, fall becomes winter, winter becomes summer, everything will happen. Seasons will change, scenery will change, everything will happen. Only thing is you don't go anywhere. This is what samsara means. As long as you're functioning within the first three dimensions of intelligence, you are in a cyclical mode. It is all right to exercise yourself, but it's not good to go somewhere. So if you want to transcend the samsara nature of who you are or the cyclical nature of your existence, then you touch the dimension of intelligence which is referred to as chitta. Why the so-called Eastern wisdom is of great significance, why the dharma of the East is so significant and important is because this comes from chitta. This does not come from buddhi, this does not come from manas, this does not come from ahankara, this comes from chitta. And only that which does not come from your individual identity or individual memory, that can be truly universal. So for this we said, this is Sanatan Dharma. This does not mean Hindu religion. This is a very wrong conception. Sanatan Dharma means the ultimate law of nature. When we say nature, there is physical nature and there is an inner nature. There are two dimensions. For this, accordingly, we made two dimensions of laws. Physical nature is a changing thing. It's always in a process of change and a flux. But the inner nature is a constant process. So we made two dimensions of expression for this dharma called shrutis and smritis. One is always to be updated for every generation. Otherwise, two generations will keep on bickering and clashing. You have to update it. Another is eternal, it's always there. It's nobody's business to change it because it cannot be changed because the fundamentals of life has not changed. Based on this, an entire wisdom arose as to how to exist within you and how to operate around you. This happened in 1924. There was a bishop in the Orthodox Greek religion where, there's Orthodox Greek segment of Christian. They have a pope of their own in Istanbul. They believe they are the only true Christians. Others are all riffraff, according to them. So, he served this particular segment, which is very orthodox and rigid. Being in Istanbul, being on the Silk Route, all kinds of stories of Indian mysticism kept wafting across the Bosphorus. So he has a longing to go to India and see a real yogi or a mystic. But being a man of cloth, he could not choose where to go and where not to go. After he passed 60 years of age, when he semi-retired, he got an opportunity and went to India and came to southern India. So his desire is to meet a real yogi, not a book yogi, not a studio yogi, but a real one. So somebody directed him and said, go up this hill, there in this kind of place, there will be one yogi. So he went up. Well, he's not made for the mountains, he went huffing and puffing up, and then he found in front of a small cave, a yogi was sitting, eyes closed, totally blissed out. He went there and he has been told that if you see a Indian yogi, you must prostrate. Well, he was not made for that, but he somehow managed, huffed and puffed and sat down. Hearing this commotion, the yogi opened his eyes and smiled. Immediately the bishop looked at him and said, can I ask you a question? The yogi said, by all means. The bishop asked, what is life? This is life. You should have asked this question when you were 8, at least when you're 16, 60. But what to do, better late than never. He asked. Then yogi laughed and went into raptures. Oh, life is like the fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze. The bishop looked at him and said, what? Life is like fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze? Our teacher told us, life is like a thorn. Once it gets into you, if you sit, it hurts, if you stand, it hurts, if you lie down, it hurts. What is this fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze? So the yogi smiled and said, well, that's his life. So this comes from the fundamental that when a human being clearly, experientially understands that entire experience of human life is created from within, never from outside. Right now as you sit here, do you at least see me? Even if you're not listening to me, I'm saying. Can you use your hand and show where I am? No, you're getting it all wrong. You know, I'm a mystic from South India. Now this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the whole story. Where do you see me right now? Within yourself. Where do you hear me right now? Within yourself. Where have you seen the entire world? Within yourself. Have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? Right now, someone next to you, if they touch you, you think you're experiencing their hand. No. You're only experiencing the sensations in your hand. In the very nature of things, you cannot experience anything outside of yourself. When the entire experience of life is caused from within you, at least it must happen the way you want it to. The world will not happen the way you want it. At least the experience of living here within you must happen the way you want it. If your experience of life happened just the way you want it, how would you keep yourself, blissful or miserable? Please, you must tell me, I'm going to bless you. Blissful or miserable? For yourself, definitely highest level of pleasantness for yourself. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but you know what you want for yourself, isn't it? Now, blissfulness or pleasantness of life is not a goal by itself. It is only when you're blissful by your own nature. That means you determine the nature of your experience. No matter what is the situation, you determine the nature of your experience. Or in other words, you have no fear of suffering. Only and only when there is no fear of suffering will you walk full stride in this life. Otherwise, it's always about what will happen to me, what will happen to me. Every step is a half a step. Now, this so-called spirit of Eastern wisdom comes from those beings who walked full stride, who determined the nature of their experience.
We appreciate your presence and active participation. Let's continue this journey together, exploring new horizons and sharing our light with the world.